What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Online Therapist channel. My name is Eddie Reyes, licensed psychotherapist. And today we're going to talk about dating and why it's so hard in today's era. And I'm going to base my opinion on my personal experiences, my professional experiences, talking about challenges in relationships in my therapeutic room within marriages and people who are considering to get married, and some of the things that I've read and observed. And some of you may not agree with it, and if you don't, give me a comment and tell me why you don't agree with it. But before we get started, hit like and subscribe to the channel and share the content if you enjoy it. So why is it so hard to date in today's era? Well, I think there's several reasons as to why, but I'm going to give you the ones that are kind of stand out for me, and I'm not sure if we have a solution for it. Most of human history, people tended to get together with another person as a means of survival, and the priorities were different, and those mechanisms were driven by instincts. And the last 100 years has been somewhat of a miracle of the modern world, where we're all pretty much independent and self-sufficient. And so then there's really not a need to survive, and to get with someone. You can kind of get your food, you can get your own security, you can get your own transportation, you can get your own job to sustain you, and so there's just hyper independence that we have now, and there's very little tolerance for any kind of tension within a relationship. And if it doesn't meet every criteria that you want, we kind of tend to go. And I think here is what I think when it comes to that. I think we have these modern desires that are based on this culture that we've had, and these ideals that we have, and I don't know if they're mixing well. I'll give you an example. I have a couple of clients. One of them, they have similar situations. One of them is the woman is very strong, and she's just really talented in what she does. She's a professional, and her man is kind of like a chilled out dude, and he's not very ambitious, but he's loyal and kind and works hard at his job, but he's not the most ambitious person. He doesn't make decisions, and his wife is just, she makes the decisions, right? And in therapy, she tells me that she wants her husband to take control, even though she's getting after it, and she's an independent woman, that at home she wants her man to take control. So here's a challenge with that, and I'll use this example as to explain the greater challenge here, is that if you have a partner, if you have a woman who's takes control, and she's masculine, and she's then that's great, good for that person. It kind of leaves the guy out, and it's like, well, what do I do? Let me just follow, right? Because that's kind of what I have to do here, because you're kind of the more dominant person. You make the more money, and you have more education, so I need to follow. But even then, with that discrepancy of skill set, this woman still wants her man to take control. So I think that's a symptom of what I just mentioned earlier, is that I think our instincts and what drives us is misaligned with what style of life we have here. There's an abundance of a lot of things, and I think that in itself is a huge problem in dating today. The other thing that makes things very hard is social media and dating apps. Before, when you met somebody, you had to actually go up to somebody in the skating ring or at the movie theater, at the mall, and that interaction was just so you had to work for it. Guys went up to women, and you had to ask for the number. You had to have enough communication skills to ask for that number. And you just were so proud of it. You were so proud of that. And already the first interaction, when you grab that number from that woman, and it was already special. You had already made a connection that meant something. It wasn't just a number. There was something associated with it that captured your attention, and you built on that. You talked on the phone, and you connected. You built rapport, like, hey, we're gonna go out. And it was that one person. Yeah, there's, we always had players have been here, they always will. And then you had people who had more numbers, but it was still an effort to obtain it. In contrast to today, most of the time you just look up somebody's name and add them, and you have most of their life. And you can read everything about them and you get all this information without creating that rapport and that human experience. So I think that waters down everything. And so instead of just seeing a human being and really seeing their humanity in that one-on-one experience, where you actually had to go up to somebody, now you're seeing it through a digital perspective. So I think it kind of dehumanizes it, and it doesn't make it as special. And I think there's some psychological implications to that. And that's why, you can kind of send a message to somebody and, you have some interactions, and it maybe get diffused, or maybe you get so many messages that you get frustrated and stressed, and it just makes things a little bit more murky, and you really can't filter through all the sift of what is a real connection. I think that's a big part of the challenge today in this idea that there's so many options or easy access to people without earning it. So I think that kind of affects the dating world today, and it's a real big challenge. Men's testosterone levels are getting lower, and what does that impact in the dating scene? Do women still want men to go up to them? Do they not? Do women go up to men instead, or is it equal now? There's lots of questions now. Before, there was just kind of a protocol, like men went up to women, and that was it. It was rare that a woman went up to a man, and I'm not saying that's possible or a good or bad thing, but the rules are kind of changing. So I think men kind of are confused. The ghosting thing, before that wasn't necessarily a thing, and now it is. And I think you didn't see it before often because you went up to an individual and you grabbed the number. So that person had seen your humanity to the point to give you a call and say, like, hey, you know what, I'm not interested. And that was most of the time the case. Now that's not so much. But I go back to my point that social media kind of dehumanizes the experience, and therefore waters it down, and therefore it just doesn't really go anywhere. And I've met people that have met people through social media, but I think those are some of the challenges. I can go on more, but I just want to leave that with you. I want to hear your thoughts. Like I said, leave me a comment, leave me your thoughts. I'd love to know your perspective of why it's hard to date in the modern world. Thank you for joining me. And remember, people don't have ideas. Ideas have people.